Every now and then in World of Tanks Blitz, I feel like I'm losing my mind, and this past couple of weeks since update 8.3 has definitely been one of those experiences for me. Now, in update 8.3, the IS-7 received PBR files, and because of that, it got a bit of an armor rework. The side actually got quite a bit of a buff on the lower part, and we can easily see that here. If we go over to Armor Inspector, you can see that we've got this little skid plate here at the bottom now, which is kind of like a T-22 medium. You'll get a lot of bounces there if shots do go low, which before would not have happened. Obviously, this part here that was low hanging literally went across the whole vehicle and was a very easy penetration. But in update 8.3, it's much harder to hit the IS-7, especially at long distances. You will end up hitting that lower bar every now and then. Or if you're trying to aim at this track wheel and you miss by just the slightest nudge, it will end up missing and going straight into the lower part and auto ricocheting. But other than that, I mean, the frontal armor, yeah, it did receive a buff, but for the most part, I mean, an IS-4 is still easily going to cut through the upper plate of an IS-7 and, of course, the lower plate as well. So it did get an armor buff, but it's nothing ridiculous. You know, you can deal with that little side skirt on the lower plate because overall the whole upper part stays exactly the same. Or so that's what Armor Inspector and Blitz Hanger and Blitz says themselves. Now, as you can see here, the side of the IS-7's spaced armor here, which you can see if we angle it, that's all red. Well, the side of the spaced armor, it says about 236 millimeters thick, which is obviously nothing all too impressive. And if we go over to 8.3 changes, where it shows the armor profile before and after of the IS-7 at 8.2, and we take a look at the armor here, it's about 234 millimeters thick, which is exactly what we just saw on Armor Inspector. And if we go to 8.3 and we take a look at that exact same armor again, I mean, there you go. Basically the same angle, and it's about 250 millimeters thick. I mean, sure, it's a little bit thicker, but 250 millimeters thick is obviously base values, and on Armor Inspector, we're looking at it with shell normalization added in. So an AP shell from an IS-4 with 258 millimeters of standard pen should be plenty to cut through the side armor on an IS-7. But that's when I started losing my mind, because I've always known that you can penetrate the side of an IS-7 spaced armor if it is flat on. But then, after playing battle over battle, and I've been seeing a lot of IS-7s obviously because it's been buffed, a lot of people are liking it, for some reason, every time I shot at the side spaced armor, it would never, ever penetrate. And after a while, I started doubting myself. And I asked other people, and I was like, are you having this issue? And they're like, no, I don't really notice anything. So I was like, okay, I must just be the insane one, and I must be forgetting what the armor was like before update 8.3. But then this happened here, and I looked back at an old 8 point whatever update. This was just before update 8.3, and we're looking at a video from HD Android Gaming where it's an IS-7 versus IS-4s. This IS-4 is running Gunrammer, and you can see even with Gunrammer at an angle like this, you cannot, or I mean you can easily cut right through that spaced armor. You can see it right there. Very, very easy penetration. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go to Yukon, which you can see we are on. And then I'm going to click ready, and I'm going to ready up on my press account, and we are going to test ourselves live the armor profile of the IS-7 and compare it to the IS-4's gun, which would be the exact scenario that we just saw on Yukon there with that replay. So here we are. I'm gonna drive. I have to drive two devices at once, so this might not be the easiest thing. Let me aim my tank this way. Then I gotta drive my IS-7. I'm on my phone with my press account, my Z Fold, and then I'm on my computer driving the IS-4. So this is a bit of a struggle, I will say that, but we're gonna get this done. Don't drive into the rock, and yeah, this is really, really interesting. You know what? The saturation actually looks really nice on the phone. It's much more bland than Blitz, but here we go. I'm getting basically to the spot I need to with my IS-4. There we are. Let me just position my IS-4. Just let me make sure this is like on par. So we're literally looking straight at the building, so I should be about here, and there you go. That's about the angle. And then we're going to go get our IS-7 on my phone, and we are going to put the tank at basically the same angle. So let's do that really quick. Let me just angle the vehicle like this, and we should be getting into position. Oh, I'm at the wrong base. Oops, I got to keep driving. I was like, where the heck's the IS-4? Yeah, this is just engaging gameplay from Droodles Blitz, as always. Here we are, pulling up the corner, and yeah. So now, if we do the same angle here, and I back my vehicle up, it should, in theory, let me just turn it to the side at, I would say, an angle like that. It should be a pen. I mean, that is basically the same angle that we have here. and it doesn't pen. Like, what the heck? I've been losing my mind looking at this. I mean, well, that actually went low. You can see that did not go where I aimed. But, I mean, even if you over-angle it like this, that is literally the angle that we are looking at straight here. You can clearly see that those are the same angle, the same spot, and yet, if we aim in here and we fire the shell, it doesn't penetrate. And that is directly in the spaced armor. So, after looking at the IS-7's armor profile, I have declared that it is not me losing my mind, and that Wargaming buffed the spaced armor on the side, but they didn't actually buff it. I don't understand how that makes sense, because Armor Inspector is getting base values from Wargaming's client, and as well so is Blitzhanger, and yet it doesn't pen. It will never pen the spaced armor. I mean, even if we turn it fully, you have to go to an angle like this before I can actually pen it, and it's still completely side on. And I mean, at that point, you're aiming up at it. It's just ridiculous to me. I mean, it's slightly angled, which is basically like this is what it shows in the gameplay. I mean, it's just stupid. It really is stupid. I don't get it. And obviously, that's when you're looking up at the spaced armor. So if we were to actually, you know, go over here and we were going to flat grounds where you're not looking up at the spaced armor like this, it's actually much, much weirder on the penetration. So I just don't know what to say. The armor is really, really funky. I mean, you can see just slightly at an angle, and it's red. There you go. Armor not pierced. So I really don't know what to say about the IS-7. I mean, previously, that would not be red. I mean, you can see I'm basically fully side on, and I still cannot penetrate the spaced armor on the IS-7. This is ridiculous. Before the update, this was never an issue. Now, obviously, it's not the end of the planet. You can still aim above, and you can aim below. But what I find irritating about this is if you are, let's say, across the map, or, you know, 100 meters away from an IS-7 and you're aiming at that, there is a high chance that when you're aiming at this, you're going to hit this bar instead of actually hitting the tank's weak spot. Because obviously, this here, if we take actually a look on an Armor Inspector again, and we look at that bar and pretend it's red, so we angle it like this, that way it's red. I mean, that bar there is red, and this here is red. So you have to either hit this spot here or this spot here. And I mean, if you're across the map at, you know, 500 meters, I mean, that is what your aiming circle looks like with an IS-4. So you have a very high chance of not hitting where you want it to, and it either hitting the red part or down here. I mean, I don't know. I wanted to make this video to point that I wasn't losing my mind. I mean, even heat shells now, I'm using heat, and it can't penetrate this armor at all. And you can clearly see that if we go back to this video, that angle there is what we were looking at, and you just can't pen it. I don't understand. I think I've lost my mind. So, let me know what you guys think about this. Wargaming, I think, buffed the IS-7 without letting people know what they actually changed on it, which is irritating. I mean, you can see even at an angle like that, you can penetrate the side armor. But imagine trying to pen that now. I mean, if we look at that angle, what it was like here, I mean, that's just obviously all red. It's actually the only red part. I mean, you can aim at this, and it'll pen. But this part is the only part that's red. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. But for me personally, I've really lost my mind because I've been playing and just shooting at where I normally would shoot. You know, when I'm in a normal pub game, boom, I shoot right at that spaced armor. Now, obviously, I'm only having heat shells now, so it is spaced. But I mean, I've honestly lost my mind. I really thought that I was the one losing it and that I was shooting at this IS-7 over and over at the spot that I normally pen, and it's just not penning. But no, it turns out that Wargaming actually changed the armor of the IS-7, and they made the upper part weaker. But I think what they ended up doing is actually, you can see here, there's this big old curve that kind of comes down, that arches over. And I don't think that actually existed previously. So that curve now has made the IS-7 much thicker on this spaced armor. I don't know. But to what I'm aware, I mean, you really can't penetrate it. You can see even fully sight on, it's not a pen. It's all red, the whole thing. It's really just ridiculous. Hopefully, all of you enjoyed today's video. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have been frustrated by this as well. Hopefully, this helped some of you that were having issues. Why is this 8 pens? There's no way, right? Yeah, I was about to say. But hopefully, this helps some of you out there understand the IS-7's armor profile that I have, right? I mean, it's weird. It really is weird. You can see here, you can pen it, even with heat shells. But just at the slightest angle, you can't. It makes no sense. Hopefully all of you enjoyed today's video, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.